Kaido racers are a piece of Japanese automotive culture that are known for their wild styling and loud exhausts. These cars are most commonly referred to as Bosozoku cars, however that term isn't quite right. So, to save you the embarrassment at your next car meet, we're going to dive into some of the basics about the terminology, the parts, and the cars that they use so that you can have a little bit better understanding as to what's going on with them. The first thing you should know about Kaido racers are all the different styles that are involved with them. There are plenty of subcategories that we could dive into and get all of the nitty-gritty details about. However, we're just going to cover a few of the basic, most common ones. We're going to reiterate again that they're not Bosozoku cars. Bosozoku is a term that refers to 80s Japanese motorcycle gangs, and while the styles are somewhat related and the culture kind of blends together, they don't really have a place as being labeled as that because they are their own thing. The few main styles that you're going to see of Kaido racers are going to be Graken, Heiso, and Kyusha. In the early 1970s, Fuji International Speedway in Japan started a new race series. The new race series was called the Fuji Grand Championships. So, shortening Grand and Championships, you get the style Graken. Companies like Nissan and Mazda would battle it out on the track using a team called a works team. These teams are either fully funded by the manufacturer, or some of them are somewhat privately owned. The first instance of a term Kaido racer was used in a Holiday Auto magazine in 1975. The magazine featured reader-submitted photos of cars that they would modify to resemble the ones that were on the racetrack at the Fuji series. Lowering the vehicle to match the height of the race cars, using works flares like the big ones that you saw in the race cars, and adopting big wheels with rain slicks or even just full slicks to drive on the street were a big part of the modifications that you saw on these vehicles. In 1975, the Super Silhouette or Group 5 class joined the Fuji series. These Super Silhouette cars were known for their experimental aero, so the giant wings, big front splitters, and massive box-style fenders. The series became so popular with people bringing their modified cars that the parking lot was eventually shut to any illegally modified vehicles. The illegal modifications were the ones that were done to match those of the race car, as they were seen as a nuisance given their loud exhausts and big crazy styling distracting people. During the 1980s, Japan went through an economic boom, and in turn, the demand for high-dollar Japanese luxury cars began to grow. This is where our next style comes in, the Heiso style. Heiso became a term also from the Holiday Auto magazines. Heiso is a combination of the two English words high society. Holiday Auto magazine, again, coined the term. Heiso styling separated itself from Graken styling for a Kaido racer by giving cars a little bit more simple look, but keeping the theme of luxury. Things like chrome fender trim, pearl beads strung from the mirror inside, or even a chandelier in the back of the car became common things to see on these luxury vehicles. Another large part of the Heiso car styling related to the wheels were that they were small and tucked into the fender, instead of the big, wide, racing slick style that you would see on a Graken car. Kyusha styling is one of the easiest stylings to grasp in the Kaido racer scene. Kyusha, when translated from Japanese, simply refers to old car. Similar to American-style muscle cars, these old Japanese cars had their own modifications that they stuck to. However, they were classics that were either heavily restored or had been survivors for decades. Many of these cars receive what was called a Day 2 modification. Day 2 modification refers to simple things like lowering the vehicle and giving it a better wheel and tire, a seat, and an exhaust. The modifications were kept simple in order to keep the essence of the classic car that they were being put onto. Some of the modifications aren't quite as simple, where some would take their lower trim level of their vehicle and add some of the design elements from a higher trim level. One of the most common of these more difficult modifications were those that took a lower trim level Nissan Skyline and added the design elements from a GTR. Some owners went through the effort to cut part of the body panel arch that came from the Nissan Skyline and add it to their lower trim level that did not have that body panel arch. The rear body panel arch from the GTR was referred to as the surf line, as it gave a nice distinction on the rear quarter panel. This quarter panel modification was usually done in place of adding a bolt-on style fender flare. The next main part of Kaido racers that you should know are the most common bases that you will find in the US. This will set you up for an easier time as trying to make something work instead of using a base that has already been modified or documented is much more difficult than you would imagine. The most common bases that you are going to find in the US are going to be the Datsun 240Z, the Toyota Cressida, and the Mazda RX-7. While there is a wide range of 240Zs that you can use, the Toyota Cressida and the Mazda RX-7 get a little bit more specific, but we will just leave that up to you. Lastly, one of the main things that you should know about the modifications to these cars are some of the wheel choices to use. These wheel choices are important because they add a certain look to every vehicle that they go on, and if you are using something that is a newer style, it is going to throw off the entire feel of the car. One of the most common wheels that people use are the SSR Mark I. The SSR Mark I is very recognizable because it is referred to sometimes as a dog bowl or dog dish because it is just a flat silver-faced wheel. You can also use the SSR Mark II and the SSR Mark III, which are evolutions of those wheels. Another distinct but expensive set of wheels to look out for is the Devil Japan Shadow Spoke. This wheel is instantly recognizable for its bar design that comes off of the lug area of the wheels and stretches out to the rim. The last two types of wheels that you should really get to know are the Hayashi Racing Techno Phantoms and the SSR Longchamps. My name is Joshua and you just watched a MotorBiscuit video. If you want to hear more about these wild cars, be sure to leave a comment, subscribe for future videos. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at MotorBiscuit Official, follow us on Twitter at Biscuit Motor, and for all things automotive news, insights, and content, be sure to check out our website at MotorBiscuit.com. For now, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'll see you next time.